Go ahead.
Okay, so welcome everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Shantideva is thrilled to be hosting Ösel Hita today for this question and answer session. For those already now familiar with Ösel, he's the recognized reincarnation of Lama Thupten Yeshe, who was the founder of the FPMT and who had the vision and aspiration to bring the Dharma to the West. Most of you know Ösel from his Dharma talks, but he is also an extraordinary humanitarian, a musician, a documentary filmmaker, and a devoted father to a 3-year-old and apparently a dog. He is presently living in Spain and he teaches globally. He's the founder of the Global Tree Initiative and is committed to promoting the establishment of eco-villages. I'm also delighted to introduce Gus Kutz, who is a longtime member and friend of the Shantideva community and the facilitator of our Discovering Buddhism class. We've asked our community to submit questions, and Gus will be the moderator. And if there is time after these questions, we'll open the chat room for more questions. Before I start, I'd also like to thank Jackie Keeley, the translators and their teams, and all the people at Shantideva Center that have helped make this occasion possible. We enjoyed planning the event, and it has been a pleasure to work harmoniously with everyone. It is now my pleasure to introduce Ösel. We're so grateful to have you here today. Welcome, Ösel.
Thank you.
And now I'm going to turn the program over to Jennifer and Ösel, who will set our motivation and lead us in prayers for the precious time we are here together.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Should I start?
Yes, please.
Sangye chidang sangye chinam la changjo pardo dane kesoje dage jinso yibe sonamgi dola penje sangye du mara sho sangye chidang sangye chinam la changjo pardo dane kesoje dage jinso yibe sonamgi dola penje sangye du mara sho sangye chidang sangye chinam la changjo pardo dane kesoje dage jinso yibe sonamgi dola penje sangye du mara sho. Okay, so easy, no? Keep things simple. It's a very good advice, I think. Okay, so I just wanted to start before the questions. I wanted to just make a comment because I think the name for the talk is very interesting. It says we're not Shantideva. So I think that I have to talk about that before we go into the questions. Otherwise, everybody is going to say, "Oh, why did they put that in for the talk, right?" So I just wanted to say that it's a very catchy phrase. That's why I'm sure they chose it. It attracts attention. But mainly, I think it's very important to understand and to know that obviously we're not Shantideva, right? So we cannot push ourselves too much, but at the same time, it's good to strive and to visualize what we would like to become or where we want to go to. So it's good to be ambitious in that sense, spiritually, the evolution of our spiritual kind of experience to really be fulfilled in this lifetime. So I think that's a great ambition, and it's a good motivation also in order to help other sentient beings. So of course we're not Shantideva, but it would be great if it could be like Shantideva. So that's, I think, a great motivation to start with, and I just wanted to touch on that base, because even though it may seem impossible, step by step you can achieve anything you want, step by step. So I just wanted to say that before we started in the questions. Thank you. So you want to ask the questions, Gustavo?
Absolutely, Tenzin. Ösel, thank you so much.
So the first question that we have is, what is the best Dharma practice for busy people who don't want to waste their precious human rebirth, but are juggling work and family obligations?
That's a good question to start off. So we talk about maybe wasting time or not, but it seems like when it's something interesting for us, then we're not wasting it. But when it's not interesting for us, then we're wasting the time somehow. So already that shows how we are labeling that concept of time, again, saying, oh, for some people to wait in a waiting room is a waste of time. If they have to wait for 2 hours, they get very impatient. For someone else, maybe those 2 hours is a great opportunity to relax, to think about things, to read, many different things. So it depends also on the person. For some people, watching TV is not a waste of time. For others, to sit down and pray is a waste of time. So it's a very relative in that sense. But I wanted to say that talking realistically, it's true that 1/3 of our life we are sleeping. We used to sleep. Maybe not everybody, but most people. Some people maybe only sleep maybe 4 hours, some people. Or some people even don't sleep at all. But normally we sleep 1/3 of our life. The second third of our life we use to work. Normally we're working the second third of our life. And then half of the third third, half of that we use to eat. Everything related to buying food, cooking food, eating, socializing, all of that. So in the end, we're left with 1/2 of a third. So that's the time that we have to meditate or to do practice. So yes, obviously, you can say people that don't want to waste the time, but I think we all waste our time in a way. It's just based on our priorities, and we give that imputation whether it's waste or not. But time is relative because there's no time really. It's just change. Movement. In the same way, life can be very ironical. The irony of life. Of oxygen, for example, gives you life, but then at the same time it oxidizes you, takes away life, right? So that's the irony of life. It's like the good and bad, the white and black. It's always this kind of dualistic view, but ultimately the dualism is not real. But for us it looks very real. So I think that's a good point to touch, to really understand that it's all based on perspective and attitude. Really, that's the key. So whether we use our time properly or not is really based on our attitude and the perspective that we have of what can we do with that time or how to use it. So going back to the question, for busy people who do not want to waste their precious human rebirth but are juggling with work and family obligations. So I think for people like that, we have I say we because I'm including myself. I think it's a blessing. It's a blessing to have that opportunity, because really practice is not about finding the perfect cave and then sitting down to meditate. Practice really happens on the run. It's not about the journey or the destiny. It's not about the destination. It's about the journey, right? So really that's the key. Many people, they project, the destiny. One day when I have the perfect cave, or one day when I study enough to understand, or one day when I will have that time, when I retire, then I will have the time. We idealize, we project some concept in the future, but it doesn't really exist now. We just like to kind of give it some kind of words, just for us to relax more, so we can feel good about ourselves, it's okay for now, but it's not really, that moment will never arrive, if you wait for it. So it's really more about saying, okay, what kind of lifestyle do I have now? And how can I be a better person within that lifestyle? And that's how you put it in practice. That's a real practice. You know, the real practice is when really things become difficult, when situations, you know, they challenge us. That's where we really have to be like, okay, now this is the moment. This is the moment of practice. And it can be anytime. Even when you're bored. Oh, I'm bored. Oh, now it's a good time to practice. Why am I bored? What is my mind projecting? You know? So I think that's really, even if we're working, we can still be practicing. You know, because it's about an attitude towards people. Most time in work, we're always relating to people. You know, so how am I going to relate to the people I work with? Or how am I going to relate to myself when I'm working? Am I going to be irritated with myself? Am I going to be anxious? Am I going to be stressed with myself? These are all attitudes that we choose to have. They're not necessary. They're not necessary, but we choose to have them. Why? Because maybe we want to justify the fact that we are unhappy. So we need something to justify that we are unhappy, or that we are, you know, suffering, or whatever it is. We don't want to take responsibility. So that's how we kind of, you know, try to trick ourselves into thinking that, you know, oh, when I have that time, then I'll practice. You know, it's good, it's complementary if you actually do the actual sadhana. Of course, that's very good, you know, but not everybody has time to do that or even believes in that. You know, so for people who believe and have time in sadhana, that's great, because it's already been designed and created for you automatically, to automatically just, you know, read something and then put your dedication, you know, put your time, your energy, and then you kind of create the neural pathways to have that kind of imprint. So it's already been created, you know, the blueprint or the traditional type of practice is there, which is complementary, obviously, to our everyday life, whatever life we're having. So, but of course, the other aspect is your attitude, because for me personally, I think that's a real practice. Everything else is complementary to that. And if we're not able to put that in practice, then it's useless, really, to, even if you're meditating for 20 years or doing prayers for 20 years or going to initiations for 20 years, doesn't matter. Because eventually you understand that you're just trying to avoid taking responsibility for yourself. So I think that's really what I can say about this question. Is it really, it's about the attitude. It's about having a harmonious mind, you know, being happy with oneself, so that you can really share that attitude with others, in the workplace, in the family, with your children. If your children are angry or are shouting, or they're not listening to you, or they're making things complicated, or they just made everything super dirty, you know, then of course you can't shout at them. They're children, right? So how do you have that attitude? That's the practice right there. You know, you speak with love, you speak with patience, with caring, with understanding. That's the practice. Because that's really going to be there with you. That's something that you're creating, you know. And in the same way that maybe through the traditional practice, we're creating the same thing, but in a more kind of mechanical way, let's say, in a more programmed way. This way is more like natural, happens organically, because we already have that loving kindness, warm heart. It's already there. Everybody has that. From the moment you're born, you already have that, you know. So it's just coming in touch with that and being able to make that available in your everyday life at all times. So that for me is a real practice. Okay.
Thank you so much. So on that note, actually, our next question is, how can we let go of personal grudges?
So personal, it's not here in the questions. You just invented that, right?
No, this was a question that we had before. It ties in very nicely, but it's there. Personal grudges.
So personal grudges, I think that's a very, very, very important question, because many people, they have that problem. And I think one of the most important, crucial fact about personal grudges is that it's about yourself. It's about you in some way, you know. Maybe directly you don't see it, maybe you don't realize that it's really about you, because you always think, oh, it's about the other person. But maybe what the other person does somehow reflects on you, on your unconscious, and you don't want to really, focus on it or challenge it. But then you just keep it like that, like, oh, the mistake is from the other person. But obviously, many times also, even if we are not wrong, even if we didn't make any mistake, it's good to offer forgiveness to the other person. Because many times if we don't forgive, they cannot forgive themselves. And not only that, if we don't forgive, we are carrying that for them also. We are carrying that grudge towards that person or that situation or whatever it is that we have a grudge towards. And that's eventually, I mean, that's a weight for us that we are carrying. So I think it's very important to forgive, even though we may think, oh, I don't have a grudge towards that person like that. Sometimes if we really check, maybe we're just too proud to really recognize. So that's a really good question, because many times it's something that causes a lot of suffering. We really have to forgive, because in the end, if you don't forgive, it's more about ego than about really having a warm heart. Because forgiveness, a warm heart is no problem to forgive. For a warm heart, forgiveness is so easy. It's like, so you feel joy to forgive, even if you're right and the other person is super wrong. Doesn't matter. You're happy to forgive. Why? Because you want the other person to be happy. You want the other person to be free of mind problems, right? Free of, try to, like, being suffering with their own mind, like being worried or thinking about something too much. You want them to be free of that. So it's very easy. It's a very simple thing. It becomes complicated when the ego becomes involved. So if there's a grudge, the only reason is because there's an ego. Unless, of course, it's not a grudge. It's you're keeping your limit. You're putting a limit so that the other person can actually adapt in a positive way and evolve. Because many times it's not about saying, oh, I want to help all mother sentient beings, and then giving your life away, or forgetting about yourself. It's not really about that either. You also have to have a self-compassion. So you also have to take care of yourself. So in that self-compassion is that place where you put a limit. Also for the other person to understand, Because if you give, then maybe eventually not only are you harming yourself, you're harming them also. Because you're spoiling them in a way. You're making them feel completely, what do you call it? That's their right, that you have to offer them whatever service or whatever it is. It's their right. And then eventually has a very negative impact for them because they don't learn. So that's why sometimes it's good to put a limit, right? So yeah, so that's, I think, very important to always be able to forgive, and not only forgive others, but forgive yourself from the beginning, Very important, because if you can't do that, then it's very difficult to really have a warm heart. And I think if you want to have a warm heart, you must understand that it's something that you will really enjoy doing, to forgive. It's something that you enjoy. It's not something that you have to force yourself. It's not like that. It's like, wow, yeah, of course, of course. You don't even think about it. It just comes like that, happens. So I think that's why to keep a grudge it's a big mistake, and also it's not a good sign. It's not a good sign. Okay.
So our next question is about something that's a little bit more specific to the Buddhist path, which is how can we understand guru and guru devotion in a 21st century context?
Okay. I already lost which question you're in, but okay.
Question number 3.
Question number 3. It says, how can we share the Dharma with our children? Question number 3.
Oh no, I have a different version of the questions. I'm sorry.
Okay, if I forget the question, I'll ask you. Okay.
You want to ask? Yes.
I start talking, then I forget the question and I don't know how to come back.
Yes, of course.
Okay, so this question is about what guru devotion you said, no?
Yes, how can we understand guru and guru devotion in a 21st century context?
Okay, how can we understand? Well, okay. Okay, so this is a, I think, very normal question. I've been asked the question many times, so now I'm pretty good at answering this question. So basically, the guru is, I mean, of course, there's a lot of confusion sometimes, but mainly everything we know, everything, for example, okay, let's talk about Gustavo. Everything Gustavo knows was taught by his own mind. Is that correct, Gustavo? Is there anything that you learned that was not taught by your mind?
Oh, I think so. Yeah,
Like what?
most things, like how to speak.
Anything that your mind didn't teach you?
I think. I mean, if I hadn't been taught by my teachers, I wouldn't know how to read or write, or even if I hadn't been taught by my parents, I wouldn't know how to speak.
But isn't that your mind who taught you in the end? If you didn't have mind, you wouldn't be able to learn how to.
Oh, yes, for sure, yes.
So that's basically, that's really what we have to be aware of.
I
It's
see.
not, oh, I learned from this person. No, that person facilitate us to learn ourselves.
Yes.
So then, who is the first guru? Is it mind? Well, not the mind. I mean, ourself, right? So that's really a guru, let's say, right? It's not maybe the guru, but it's a guru. And that's a guru that we really have to be aware of, because we talk about, for example, guru devotion. But then when we are with ourselves, we don't have that devotion. Maybe we don't respect ourselves the same way we respect the outer guru, right? So I think that is the first step that we have to think about. It's not about just the respect and the devotion towards the outer guru. We have to have the respect and the devotion for our own mind, our own self also. Because otherwise it means, oh, like when I'm alone, oh, I can do anything I want. I put on my feet, I do this, I do that, doesn't matter. Of course it matters. If you really want to be a real practitioner, then you have to also be aware of your own aspect, right? It's not about, in the teachings in front of people, I'm going to act like this. Then when I'm alone, it doesn't matter. I mean, obviously, when we're alone, there's certain things that that we do when we're alone, like farting. That's something personal, right? And of course, as even if we are our own guru, it's not a big deal, because it's me and myself. Me, myself, right? But the real point that I'm trying to make is that respect. That is sometimes why, because we get lost in the guru devotion, and then it just becomes something else. It's because we're not really, applying the full concept. We're just applying maybe 50% of the actual process of guru devotion. So the same way that you practice towards the outer guru, you have to practice towards the inner guru. I mean, for example, okay, let's say maybe I'm male, but I have also a female side, and I have to be able to recognize and kind of integrate that female side together with my other male side. It's not like, oh, I'm male and that's it. Also, it's a kind of like the two aspects. In the same way, I have to also respect myself and integrate that aspect of the guru in myself also. So that's really where the practice is. It means that when you're with the guru, you're acting in one way, and when you're without the guru in front, also you're acting the same way. The respect, the faith. So I think that's the first step of understanding really the guru devotion, because it's a two-way thing. It's not like, oh, now I'm going to get on my knees, I'm going to pray a lot, and I'm going to listen to what the guru says, and then that's it. And with that, I'll have the imprint, to become enlightened in this lifetime, and I don't have to do anything else. And if it doesn't work out, I can blame the guru. So that's why I think it's very important to have faith in the guru and to have faith in oneself. It doesn't mean that, oh, I'm better than the guru or the guru is better than me. It's all different. We're all different. Nobody knows more than the other person. We all know different. because we all know from different perspectives. We learn it in a different way, we understand it in a different way, and our perspective of that information is also in a different way. Even though we share space and we share the surface of the earth and we share the air and so many other things, right? One thing that we don't share is that each of us is unique. That we share, the uniqueness, but each one is unique in that sense, and that's what we don't share, right? That each of us is completely different, and possibly in the rest of the existence of all the multiverses, that person as you are will not happen again that way ever again. So that also is very special to understand, to value. I mean, you can say, maybe that's another question about reincarnation, but you can say, I'll be reborn again. It doesn't matter, I can just procrastinate this lifetime. I'll create some cause for the next life. So I'll go around the stupa, do some prayers. Then with that, it's okay. I already have enough merits for next life, next life will take care of next life, right? But actually, who knows if there's a next life or not? There's many theories, but right now we are here. Right now we have this body. We have this opportunity. And even this body, even if we think about it, we are just 1% human. Right? The 99% we're just, what's it called? Viral, or what's it called? Help me with this. I forgot the name. It's not bacteria, but what, Marcos, help me.
Mitochondria? No.
Viral? No. What is it that eats the food when we eat the food?
Isn't it bacteria?
Bacteria, can it be bacteria? Yeah.
I think so.
So we are basically 99% bacteria, 1% human, right? Because even the food we eat, we're eating it for the bacteria. They eat it, and then what the result from that, we take it as energy. But really, if you think about it, we're just 1% human. So even our concept of who we are is completely upside down. We are composed by billions of organisms, of bacteria, of single-celled sentient beings, or whatever you want to call it. I mean, I don't know if they have a consciousness or not. They could. We don't know. I mean, do we know that plants and trees have consciousness? Possibly. No, I mean, according to the Tibetan text, to the Buddhist text, it says it doesn't. But sometimes I feel, even when I was a child, I used to always debate about this. Because there are some plants that move. When you touch, they move. I used to always debate, the plants have consciousness. This is one big debate I used to do all the time. And I still am convinced that possibly the plants have some kind of consciousness. I don't know. But I believe that the trees, they do communicate through the roots. And like this also, I mean, I've heard people describe that when someone walks with an axe through the forest, you can feel the trees become scared somehow. I don't know, maybe that's just the imagination, but who knows? Anyways, so yeah. So the guru devotion, mainly, it's a really personal thing. If you don't really have the discipline, and if you don't have the hard work and the dedication and the motivation, really, then even if you have amazing guru devotion towards, somebody who represents a Buddha, it's not really going to be very, I don't know. I mean, the guru is a guru. Obviously, he's doing his thing, and he's amazingly evolved and has amazing merit and an amazing practice. But it's not about the guru, it's about you, right? It's about how you're going to become like the guru. You're striving towards becoming Shantideva, like Shantideva, right? Or like Lama Tsongkhapa, or anybody that you choose that you would like to use as an inspiration. So really, it's I think that's where it goes, where it starts getting confusing is when people project and expect and idealize somebody, and then they just get so attached to that. And then eventually, obviously, the teacher passes away, or or maybe doesn't like say or do what you want them to do or say. I have a friend who used to ask for divination, like Mo, ask the question, to the guru. So he would ask one guru. If the question that the guru answered was not the one he wanted, he would go to ask one other guru. So he had many gurus like that. So he would ask all the gurus the same question until one guru answered the question the way he wanted them to answer. And then always when he always had problems with the answer, because then he would follow the answer that he wanted, and then when problems came, he would blame the guru. He'd be like, this is the wrong answer. You gave me the wrong answer, and then he would criticize the guru. So that's not really guru devotion. Okay, that's just an excuse. Okay, so I think, something like that. Does that make sense?
Yes, I think it makes very much sense. Another question that we had that actually comes up a lot, and I will admit I'm going a little bit out of order, but just because you mentioned, you said, we talk about rebirth, but there are so many theories and, who knows for sure. So one question we get a lot is it important to know about rebirth? If so, why? And how can we understand rebirth in the West?
So in the Buddhist philosophy, it mentions that the consciousness has no beginning and it has no end. So basically, we're infinite, right? I mean, infinite is a big word. It's very difficult to understand or to tackle. But as a concept, that's how it goes, I mean, maybe it's talking about eons, and then because they don't have a number, they just say infinite. That's also philosophy that you have to debate a lot, check all the possibilities. But the fact is that our consciousness is it's existing for a very, very, very long time. So there is no beginning, there is no end. That is a very long time. So then when we get attached, we get so attached to this body or to people or to a situation, or even to our hard work. Maybe we've been working for 20 years and then we build something. We get so attached. So a great practice is to just visualize it. I mean, we're going to die. I mean, all of this is not really going to be there. And even the people who remembered us also will die, and everything that we built will finish. It's a reality of impermanence. And I think that's something that we really have to be aware, because if we're not aware of impermanence, then we're gonna set ourselves up to suffer, for sure, 100%. And not only that, but we're gonna waste a lot of time worrying about things that we shouldn't be worrying about. Because it doesn't make really much sense, to worry about something that we cannot avoid. I like to use this example of life and death, because it's very like death is like a taboo. Oh no, bad, very bad. So people who don't like death normally are not really able to live. I don't know if that makes sense. If I deny death, then I'm going to be scared to live. I'm scared. Oh, something can happen. Something bad could happen. So I'm not going to travel. I'm not going to go to do this because something could happen. Because I have that fear-based feeling or thought, which is a low frequency, obviously. It's not something amazing or good. Obviously, of course, we have the fight or flee, kind of instinct to survive. If we are put in a situation of great danger, we have to decide if we have to flee or if we have to fight, and that's the fear comes in there, but it's more of a like survival mechanism than anything. We can't feed that fear and make it huge. We can't, I mean, fear is a big problem, because eventually maybe more the stress that comes from the fear is really what's going to harm you, not what you're fearing actually. So what you fear is not going to harm you, right? But the effect of having that fear towards whatever it is that you're scared is going to harm you, that's going to harm you. Because through that fear, we create a stress. And that stress is not healthy. Because of course we tend to feed that because it makes us feel maybe more alive, or maybe that's a pattern that we've had for a long time. Because so it's easy, you know, we're children of habit, so it's easy to take a habit and keep doing it. It's very easy. Many times maybe we're living in a very uncomfortable way, or we're doing things in a very unpractical way, or we are stuck in a situation that's almost impossible and unbearable, but we keep doing it. Why? Because we have the habit of doing it. Only that, no other reason. So these are very, very important things that we have to wake up to. And I think now also 2021 is a great year to wake us all up. You know, somehow the collective memory or the collective karma is starting to slap us. We're all kind of waking up a little bit. We don't really have much choice sometimes. And even some people say, oh, choice is an illusion. But if you think choice is an illusion, it means that you don't want to take responsibility. You want to run away from having to have responsibility. And I think that's also a big issue for many people in their life, that we want to run away from ourselves. We want to run away from our potential, you know. And then many times, for example, we have a body, we have an amazing body that's functioning for us constantly, with billions of sentient beings just continuously working so hard. But we only remember the body when something doesn't work. You know, when there's some tiny problem, then we remember, oh, the body, oh, I have this, oh, I have that, oh my God, oh, da, 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 da. But when it's working, we don't remember. We're not really aware of the amazing. I mean, if we were aware of our body, I mean, we would not get depressed, I think. I mean, maybe it's a big thing to say. But if we're aware of our body, because our body is really, it's complete dedication, complete love. And our body it's love. So I mean, we have the presence of this love with us constantly. You know, so I mean, I'm just saying, you know, I mean, obviously some depressions are really, really, really deep and chronic and really, really difficult and very real, obviously. But normally, in general, you know, if you're aware that your body is pure love, and just the fact that you actually that you're in contact with this amazing body full of love, that should be enough already to understand that there's no really space to be depressed. Because many times, the normal, the general type of depression, I'm not talking about the deep, serious depression, because there's some depressions very serious, very real, and need a lot of help. And I'm sure we'll touch that in the next questions coming. But the general type of depression, it comes when you have already enough to eat, when you have enough to you know, when you have a roof on your head, when you have security, you have warmth, you know, when you have all the basic needs covered. That's maybe sometimes when the general type of depression kicks in. You start complaining about what you don't have, what you want to have, what you don't want, all of these things. So basically, we just have to understand, you know, that the mind is always going to be complaining, and we are always going to be following the mind, trying to believe what the mind says. But the mind, you know, if you turn off the mind, there are no more problems. If you stop thinking, your problems disappear. Because your problems are conceptual. You know, if you feel here, the energy that you have here, it's a constant. It's just happening. And you're present. And that's really the true self, you know, it's being there. But then when you mix it up with all these complicated thoughts, then we're making it, we're not really, you know, going through the true feeling of who we are. We're just mixing it with projections. And then we believe and we get so attached to those projections. But those projections come and go. And then our attachments come and go. And we're like the grass in the wind. The wind goes this way, we go this way. The wind goes that way, we go that way. And then all our life we're doing like that. So it's very important to be able to say, okay, if there's wind, okay, but me, I'm going to be, I'm going to be like that. The bad things is written in water or in sand. But the good things is written in the rock, in the stone, in the metal. They will last thousands of years like that. But many people, their problems, they write in the rock, and the good things they write on the sand. And then something good happens, and then suddenly they forget immediately. And then one small bad thing happens, and it becomes so big and so important and so present. So I think that's an attitude that is very important to switch around, especially, for example, if you're living in a big city, if you're very stressed with a lot of work, or you have work and family, and you don't have much time, and you have a lot of issues that bother you. Your mind brings a lot of issues. And so I think this is a good technique to start transforming all of that. Okay.
Okay. Still on the subject of rebirth, we have some questions that I'm sure you've never been asked before, and I'm sure that nobody is wondering about. But I'll ask anyway, which is, what is your own personal experience of rebirth? And do you remember anything from previous lifetimes?
Very, very secret question. No, I don't remember anything. I don't remember. If I did remember, I'd probably be in Tushita somewhere, the real Tushita. Or in Shambhala or somewhere, chilling, enjoying myself, listening to the teachings of the Buddhas. No, I don't know. When I was a child, maybe I remembered a lot, because it seems there's many stories where I recognize people and I did many things similar to Lama Yeshe. But I don't know if really I am reincarnation or not. Sometimes I think maybe I'm just somebody to take away the obstacles from the real reincarnation of Lama Yeshe. So I'm here to I'm like the punching bag. And then the real reincarnation is protected somewhere, and I don't know who they are. But they're doing their job also. I don't know. But I feel very lucky. I feel very fortunate, to be able to receive so much love from so many people that I never met before. Everybody that loves so much Lama Yeshe, that Lama Yeshe loves so much, all of that love, comes to me also. And I didn't do anything to really deserve that. Really, I didn't. What did I do? I didn't do anything. Just talk a little bit, blah, blah, blah. And be very naughty. Procrastinate a lot. So really, I don't know what I did to deserve, but I guess I must have done something right. And I'm really, really grateful for that. It's really special. But also it's very curious. It's funny also, that love can be, that you actually can receive so much love meant for someone else, right? All the love that is for Lama Yeshe, which is meant for Lama Yeshe, not for me, but for Lama Yeshe. But it comes to me, I don't know why, because of the concept, right? It's that I am that person. But if you can actually put that into practice, the same way in the Dharma it talks about all mother sentient beings, right? You love your mother, or as a mother or as a father, you love your children. Sometimes I think, like, wow, I love my son so much that even if he became an assassin, even if he became like Hitler, I would still love him the same. I think that's unconditional love. It doesn't matter. Obviously, I doubt very much that my son would end up like that. But because, I'm trying to help him to go the straight way, the right way, right? But I think about that, that the unconditional love is so powerful, so unconditional in the fact that it's just giving, only giving. You don't really care. Many times, like I'll tell you a story about my son, Norbu. When he wakes up every morning, I always ask him, "Oh, what did you dream? What did you dream?" And he always answers me, "Oh, I dreamt with my mom. I dreamt with mom." And I'm like, okay, that's good. That's okay. So then one day he woke up and I said, "What did you dream today, Norbu?" In the morning, before going to school. And he looked at me and he said, "Oh, I dreamt with daddy." And I'm like, really? You dreamt with your dad? Oh my God, I can't believe. And I started to become so happy. And then suddenly it's like, Dad, I'm joking. It's not true. I dreamt with mom. I didn't dream with daddy. Then like suddenly all of that just broke. Like, oh, okay. But still at the same time, I was still so happy anyways. Like nothing really changed at all. The feeling just was still there. And on top of that, I was laughing so hard because I was like, wow, what a cheeky bastard, you know? You know, he's like that sometimes. But what I'm trying to say is the unconditional love that you have for your parents or for your children. That love, you can apply it to all sentient beings. The same way that many people apply the love for Lama Yeshe for a total stranger like me. Right? I mean, I don't know if many people really know me, but they have a concept that they think they know me maybe. And I think I know myself, but I don't really know myself. I mean, nobody really knows themselves. I mean, unless, of course, you have great practice and you have realizations and you really understand your essence, your true nature, right? And I think that is the greatest feat a human can accomplish is to conquer your own mind, to tame your own mind, to conquer. Nirvana, they say nirvana, whatever. You know, that I think is the greatest feat for any human being. And a true hero is someone who is able to do that. Like, you know, like Siddhartha or, you know, Buddha, who became later Buddha Shakyamuni. You know, so that for me is the greatest feat. And a true hero is someone who conquers their own mind. Because that is for sure the hardest thing a human can accomplish. So I don't know if I completely went the other way for the question, but
that was a beautiful answer. Thank you so much for that answer. Ösel, if you have a little bit more time, I'd love to ask some of the questions that are
as much time as you want.
Oh, wonderful. Well, we'll take you up on that.
I'm gonna put some wood in the fire because it's very cold. We're in the mountain and there's snow. So I'm gonna 10 seconds.
Absolutely. Take your time.
Okay.
So just before I turn to the live questions, of course, as you mentioned, we had already some questions in advance that we sent your way. I was just curious, were there any questions that we had sent you that I didn't get to ask you that you think you would like to speak to? Or
you sent me 25 questions.
Is there anything that I didn't ask that you wish I had, or shall I?
They're all very, very good questions. All of them. So it's up to you.
Well, I just wanted to give you the opportunity, but if they're equally good to you, then maybe I'll ask you some of the questions that have come in now.
Yeah, just anything you want.
Okay. So His Holiness the Dalai Lama says that we have to be 21st century Buddhists. What does a 21st century Buddhist look like?
Well, I think whether it's 21st century or 15th century or whatever century, it doesn't really matter. It's a label that we give, okay, to say, oh, today, right? Today. But really, Buddhist is another concept, obviously. It's really about having the warm heart, about being a good person, about having the right attitude in life, you know, and having the correct perspective. So I think that's really the main aspect of a true practitioner. I mean, I don't know if Buddhist, not Buddhist is very relative. You know, what makes you a Buddhist? You take refuge and then you're a Buddhist. You put a mala on your neck and you're Buddhist suddenly because it's fashion. Yeah, so it's not really helpful to think like that. Okay, true Buddhist, Buddhist, not Buddhist. I don't want to use that word because it doesn't really change anything. You know, it's really about if you're a good practitioner or not. And when I say practitioner, I'm not talking about sitting and acting like, oh, I'm a great tantric practitioner. Look at me, you know, at 4 a.m. I'm awake and I'm doing like this with the dorje. It's not about that. It's really, that's a personal thing, obviously, you know, and nobody should know or see that. But the true practice is about always aligning your mind in the correct way. No matter what happens, you maintain. That's the practice. The correct attitude, the correct perspective. And that automatically will help you to have the warm heart, to think about others before yourself, because many times, many of the problems that happen is just because we have a big ego and we don't really want to recognize that we have a big ego. So we want to blame the other person. We want to point the finger at the other person. Oh, this person is very arrogant, or this person doesn't care about me, or this person doesn't take me seriously, or doesn't appreciate the work that I'm doing. Me. You see, it's all about I. But really, the scapegoat is supposed to be the other person, but the other person really doesn't have anything to do with our issues or our problems. It's just about our ego. And it's so easy to do that. So easy. Because we've been doing that for how many lifetimes? Who knows? If you believe in other lifetimes. If not, you can believe in this lifetime. In this lifetime, we have so many lives already. In the morning, you wake up, you're reborn. At night, you go to sleep, you die. So every day is a lifetime. Every day is a representation, a metaphor of your life. You wake up fresh, and then slowly, eventually you have to go to sleep. So even if you don't believe in past life, future life, you can believe in the lifetimes that you have in this life. Right? So really it's about maintaining that attitude at all times, especially with yourself. Starting with yourself. Because you can be like, I have compassion for sentient beings, or I want the best for sentient beings. I'm meditating and I practice bodhicitta because I say every day, all mother sentient beings, I want to may they stop suffering, something like that. And just because I recite that, now I'm a good person. But then I'm gonna let my mind just have all these negative, toxic thoughts about such and such person. When I get together with this person, I'm gonna criticize that person. All of these aspects that go completely against, opposite towards what our practice was. So it has to be a complementary thing. It really has to be complementary. Otherwise, it's useless. It's like having a light bulb with no electricity. It's the same. You have an altar full of images, and you do the bowls, and you put the incense and the prostrations, but it's like having a bulb without electricity. Even if you have all the faith in the world, if you don't have the right attitude towards other sentient beings, then there will be no light. You can have the bulb ready to for the light to be there, but the light really comes only when you have that true warm heart. That's where the practice really becomes interesting, when it starts evolving. You can do meditation, you can reach certain realizations through meditation, no problem, easy. You can have a blissful mind, you can make things levitate, you can fly yourself, who knows, all these different things that you can do. But actually, really, is this useful? What is really useful? That after that, if you don't have the compassion, then you cannot continue. You just stay there. You just get stuck in, and you start getting really attached to your practice. You get attached to this blissful mind that you have. And then you become proud, and then because you have no compassion. So really, compassion is the key. And the compassion starts with oneself. And I think it's very interesting, because really, Dharma, it really talks about that, about all sentient beings. And it's all thanks to all sentient beings that we're here. The jacket that I'm wearing, the fact that I can talk to you directly, the fact that I have warmth in the house, that I have a roof, everything is thanks to sentient beings. And all started with a thought, right? So that's why the real attitude is the attitude of taking care, of caring, of understanding, of loving towards other sentient beings, starting with oneself. So if I'm frustrated, have that compassion for oneself. If I'm unhappy, have that compassion for oneself, right? And then of course you apply that to others, but if you only apply to others, oh, mother sentient beings, and then you treat yourself so bad, then what's the point? You get stressed and then you like blame yourself for all your problems. Oh, me, I'm nothing, I'm nobody, I'm this and this, so I can't accomplish anything, then really eventually that's not really very helpful. It's not real practice. So I think it's very good to have sadhana and to do daily practice, a traditional practice, but of course you must have it complementary to the constant alignment of your mind, and your attitude and your perspective, in order to really have the complete, full, warm heart in every sense. So I think that's really the most important daily practice. And that's really what makes you a Buddhist or anything, whatever you want to call, because really all the religions, they have a golden rule and it's all the same. So, they're all complementary. So, I mean, maybe to practice Dharma helps you to be a better Christian or a better Muslim, or to practice Christianity helps you to be a better Buddhist, or vice versa. It's not really that important, the name or the concept. What's important is, how you put in practice that attitude. Okay.
Thank you so much. A question that comes in is, how can we, or how should we share Dharma with our children?
Well, it's difficult sometimes. Dharma Dharma is a very big word, but to have the right attitude, you have to start with the small details. Right? For example, my son, I like to give examples. My son, for example, he's sometimes scared of the dark. So when it's time to sleep, with his mom, she leaves the light on, so it's fine. But with me, I turn off the light. And he starts crying, oh no, don't turn off the light. Please, I don't like the darkness. And then I tell him, the light is inside of you. You have the light inside of you. The light is not outside, the light is inside. And I'm telling that when it's all dark, And then he starts thinking that, and then he understands. And the other day, I did that many times with him. The other day he thanked me. He said, gracias, papa. And I was like, wow, okay. But even a child who's 3 years old, he can understand that. And for me, that's Dharma. To say, to empower. Dharma is about empowering the individual, about taking your own power, about saving yourself from yourself. Because that's really the ultimate goal, to save yourself from yourself. Because we are the only ones responsible to taking us to the lower realm. And we are the only ones responsible to taking us to the higher realm. Nobody else. So I think that was and then for me, it just happened like that. Automatically, I never thought about it, he was crying. I was like, well, the light is inside of you. I didn't really, but then obviously, metaphorically, it has a lot of meaning. Has a lot of weight for a child, 3-year-old child, to understand that the light is within. It's not about having, light outside. And I told him, I explained to him, obviously, now it's nighttime, so it's dark. And when you turn it off, after a while, you can see much better because you adapt to the darkness. So that's very much like Dharma. Dharma is about adapting in a positive way to any situation in life. That's really what Dharma is helping us with. And to be able to share that with others. If you can adapt to any situation in a positive way, you're going to be an inspiration to others. You'll be able to help others also to be able to tackle their problems in that way. Does that make sense? So it's really about the small details, for a child at least. It's not about teaching them Dharma, the Dharma concepts. It's about helping them empower themselves, to understand. Or for example, I always explain to him about not harming bugs, or not beating the dog. He bites the dog. And then why do you bite the dog? Why do you bite Tenzin? His name is Tenzin, Chambu Chambu, means a big love in Tibetan. I said, why do you bite Tenzin? And then he said, well, Tenzin beat me, so I had to bite him back. And then I'm like, well, okay, that's interesting. And I realized that the dog does not bite Nobu. He bites everybody else, but Nobu, he doesn't bite. Because he knows if he bites Nobu, Nobu's going to... I don't know if that's very Buddhist. For Nobu, it comes naturally, right? But I do try to, or sometimes he tries to push the dog down like some kind of like, there's like a fall and he's trying to push the dog. And I'm like, don't push him, you're going to hurt him. So I try to explain to him, like, do you like it if somebody hurts you? A bug, if a huge foot comes and squishes you? Would you like it? And he's like, no. And then like, why would you do it for someone else? And then he understands. And then also I try to explain that you don't have the right, you don't have the right to take a life. I said, okay, for example, a ant or a bug, are you able to put it together? Can you give it life? No. Nobody can do that, right? Only oneself. We can create the cause to be reborn in a situation, and then the parents have to come together to create that cause for it to happen. But you cannot put together a bug or an animal, So if you cannot give it life, then how can you imagine that you have the right to take that life away? So that also he understands very well. I said that the day that you can put together an ant, then you can do whatever you want. If you can put together the ant, you can put it out like separate, like that. Obviously, it's not like that, but it's just for him to understand in his head. He's 3 years old, so you really have to put yourself in his situation. So I don't know, like that's, I don't know if it's Dharma or not, but it's a way that I try to help him to understand. Also, for example, I tell him many times, I say he gets unhappy because he wants something. And I try to explain to him that real happiness comes from your own mind, not from getting what you want. So he has a harder time understanding that. Okay, so next question.
There's a very poignant question that came in. How to deal with the loss of my son? I think of letting go, but letting go seems to me to forget the child, and I don't want to forget him and the love he has brought into my life.
Yeah, this is a very interesting question. I have a brother who passed away when he was 13 years old. We were very close. I have many people who passed away in my life who I loved very much. And I love, obviously. It's not like, oh, now they passed away, we don't love them anymore. Oh, I love them. No, we love them now. Because they still exist in us. Right? My brother exists through me. And I think one phrase that would be very, very helpful for this person is to say goodbye. To let go is not to say goodbye. Right? To let go is to say thank you. So I think that's very important to understand this concept, because many times we think, if I let go, then I'm saying goodbye. It's like, oh, I don't appreciate that. No, it's completely the opposite way around. It's just that somehow through culture we have created this concept of like about impermanence as if it's something bad. But really, it's to let go is to say thank you. When my brother died, my whole family was everybody got so unhappy. So I have 9 brothers and sisters. I have 3 stepbrothers. I have a lot of cousins. It's a big family. So when my younger brother died, this was about 2004, 2003, 2004, something like that. So when he passed away, the whole family was for 1 week crying every day. Every day they would come together and they would cry. And everybody was super unhappy, super depressed. Obviously I was also unhappy, but for me it wasn't such a big deal because, since I was a child, I've been bombarded with the concept of impermanence. Since I was, even also to Nobu, I talked to him about the concept of impermanence. His mother doesn't like it. His mother doesn't like me talking to him about impermanence. But I think it's part of life. So I had a dream, a very, very clear, lucid, vivid dream on the third day of his passing away. And in this dream, he was, I mean, so it was a long dream. I can't describe everything, but there's this one moment he was there. So we were like, I saw him, and he didn't know he had passed away in the dream. And then he was trying to talk to the family. We had a lunch together, and he was trying to talk to the family, but nobody could see him. So he was quite unhappy. But then also he saw that the family was very unhappy. So he was very worried. He felt really guilty about the unhappiness of his family. So he was telling me in the dream, he's like, please, why is everybody so unhappy? I don't like it that they're so unhappy. If people are suffering so much, I cannot go. I'm like stuck in a way, like, because he feels responsible. So when I woke up in the morning, I was like, wow, like, it's true, like everybody's just crying, so unhappy. It must feel like a great weight, a great responsibility for him. So I said, you know what? I'm going to go celebrate. It's a little bit radical, but I did. That's what I did. I went and I partied. I was about 16 years old, so I was young. And so obviously my family did not understand. So my grandfather, she stopped speaking to me for 10 years because of that. Because I came back from the party at 7 a.m. when everybody was still mourning. And they kept mourning for another 5 days, 4 days, like that. So by the third day, I was like, I'm not going to mourn anymore. I'm just going to be happy and rejoice, and celebrate. So anyway, so that's a short story of an experience of my own experience. Eventually, my grandmother spoke to me again, and I tried to explain to her the concept, which she did not understand. But that's fine. It's not a problem. But for me, that's how I saw it. Like, instead of feeling bad about somebody leaving, about being grateful that they existed, and that they will continue living through me also and through everybody that they knew. So really, to let go is not to say goodbye. To let go is to say thank you.
Thank you so much. Another question is, how can I express myself politically without hurting Dharma ethics?
Well, I don't understand the question.
How can I express myself politically, right? Like to express my politics, without it being a problem in terms of my Dharma practice.
But I mean, the Dharma and politics is two different things. So why should it be a problem? Shouldn't be a problem. No?
I think maybe that's the answer. Maybe that's the answer to the person's question. I think, if I may, I think a lot of the time people think that to express themselves politically, they have to take a strong stand and they have to criticize and they have to, and I think sometimes people think that there's some anger, that comes when you see something politically happening that is very problematic. And I know people have asked me sometimes, what do I do? Because as a Buddhist, I'm not supposed to feel angry. I'm not supposed to criticize.
Compassion. You always have to have a lot of compassion for all the politicians. Because the politicians suffer so much and they have so much stress and so many problems, no matter who it is, what kind of politician, I think it's very important to have compassion. And obviously the criticizing mind is going to be there. It doesn't matter who is the politician. It doesn't matter. We're always going to criticize. We'll always be unsatisfied, because that's politics also. It's very vague. The vague concept is, they give you an image of something, but actually other things are happening, but we are not informed. But we are supposed to be a democracy, so it's basically the government is in place thanks to us, and we are the ones who are in power. But it seems like we are the ones who are, kind of like just very, like we are actually the ones who are maintaining the whole system by working like crazy and suffering like crazy and not really being able to fulfill our needs. So I think there is a lot of sarcasm in the way it's kind of like built, and the most sarcastic thing is that we accept that. We accept to be treated like that. We accept to be fooled in that way. So for me, I think politics is like very vague because it's not really real. I mean, you receive the information they want you to receive, and then basically it's about the division. It's more about division, or who, different sides, but in the end it's all the same. Whichever side doesn't really matter. It's just more about the concept of control. Anyways, controlling the masses somehow. But I don't know if I should get into that, because it's very easy for me to start talking about stuff like that, and I don't know if it's very wise. But I just see it like that. I think we really have to take the power back, and to understand the concept, not to be affected, by politics, because in a way, obviously, we are also responsible. But by criticizing, we're not really going to accomplish anything. So if you really want to get something done, you have to get out of the comfort zone. Very easy to point the finger and say, oh, this person and that person and this and that and da, 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 da. That's basically what we've been doing for our whole life. And if we're not careful, we'll keep doing it for the rest of our life. And so we have to be practical, and be present here, not so much other places, like which we can't really understand. Because we don't have the full, complete information. We don't have the complete picture of what really is going on. Because there's so many things going on in closed rooms. So many deals, so many this, so many that. We don't know. And not only that, but we are very badly informed. There's a lot of disinformation. And then, so I don't know. I mean, it's very difficult to really know what's real, what's not real inside the political world. But if I think the most important is just to really have compassion, and that way, at least, you are channeling that vibration, you are channeling that frequency. So that's important, that's healthy. And that helps you to keep having that attitude, no matter for whom. Instead of always feeling bad, poisoning your own kind of body by projecting and feeling bad about this person and that person and criticizing this person and that person. You're just channeling this kind of very low frequency vibration of, I don't know, just like criticism and unhappiness and kind of like, I don't know, low self-esteem. So you don't want that. So when you watch TV, it's good to have compassion, but don't have, the destructive emotions. Try to keep them at bay. Or if they do come, then try to investigate, try to observe, try to understand why and how and where they come from. Okay.
Another question is, what is the difference between self-compassion and self-cherishing? And what is the difference between self-gratification and rejoicing?
Okay, you're going to have to repeat the second part, okay?
Sure.
The first time is what? Self-cherishing and self-compassion?
Self-compassion, yeah.
So yeah, big difference. Self-cherishing is like, oh, I'm so cool. I'm so awesome. Oh, look at me. I'm much better than everybody else. That's a self-cherishing mind. It's like when you see somebody, you compare the other person based on your own feeling of superiority. Doesn't make any sense at all. It's completely hallucinogenic. I mean, what do you call it? Hallucination. So self-cherishing really is not a good thing. Not a positive thing. Why? Because you're just feeding the same ego that is kind of your enemy, really. The real enemy is the inner enemy. That's the real enemy. So the moment you vanquish the inner enemy, the outer enemy disappears. But we will always think that the outer enemy exists because we're kind of trying to avoid the inner enemy. And the inner enemy is the ego. And part of the ego is the self-cherishing mind. So the self-cherishing mind is really, It's like an illness almost. It's like being sick, and and creating an image of yourself that is not really you, but you're never satisfied with that image. This is not real, and you know it's not real, but somehow you get attached to that and you want to believe in it a lot, and it becomes a refuge. Okay, so self-cherishing, for example, let me give an example. For example, if I make a mistake, right? If I have a lot of self-cherishing mind, I'm never going to recognize this mistake. Even if I know it's a big tragedy, or if it's a big problem for me not to recognize a mistake, I'm not going to be able to recognize, because I have too much self-cherishing thoughts. So I'm going to convince myself that if I recognize that mistake, it's bad for me, or bad for my image, or bad for my reputation, or whatever it is. I'm going to create some kind of idea in order to avoid doing that. Because the self-cherishing mind is basically, it's kind of like the food for the ego, okay? And the ego is the enemy, the real enemy. And the ego is going to be there until the last moment. And right at the last moment, when you're about to die, that's where the ego abandons you, because it did its job really well. And then maybe it'll go somewhere and it'll get a big prize or something. I don't know. if it's done its job. The job of the ego is to not allow you to evolve, not allow you to really find your own potential, to really be who you are meant to be. So that's the job of the ego. You can call it a chip, you can call it a program, you can call it whatever you want to call it. Imprints, I don't know. The dual dark, the dark's dual self, or whatever. I don't know. You can invent many names for it, but eventually it's the same thing. It's this aspect of oneself that doesn't exist. It's a delusional concept of oneself that we feed in order to maintain a certain idea, of identification. But really, there's nothing to identify. Because, who are you? You're just the result of your own actions. That's it, very simple. So that's why self-cherishing is basically the food for the ego. So we really don't want to give food to the ego, because the ego is really, if the ego does its job, then we failed as a human in this lifetime. Then we have to do it the next lifetime. And if we didn't create the right merits to be reborn in the right situation, then every time it can become more and more and more difficult. If you're reborn as a tiger or as a carnivore animal, you have to kill, you have to create suffering in order to survive every day. And then you're creating the cause to keep falling down into the lower realm and not to be able to really be liberated. So self-cherishing mind, that's one. And then the other one is self-compassion, you said, right?
Yes, self-cherishing versus self-compassion.
So self-compassion is very, very, very different, because the self-compassion is not about me. It's really about my potential, who I can be. That's because the self-compassion has wisdom. The self-cherishing has no wisdom. No wisdom. It's just like an addiction almost, or a habit that we just keep doing. But the self-compassion comes together with wisdom very clearly. So that's why the self-compassion is essential, really, to understand bodhicitta. Because one thing is compassion, the other thing is bodhicitta. Bodhicitta is a state of mind. It's a type of realization where your attitude towards all sentient beings, including yourself, is the same attitude of the most loving mother that ever existed, the most unconditional loving mother. That attitude, even more than that, actually, because we can't really understand from our kind of human concept to really understand the profoundness, the depth of bodhicitta is very, very difficult. But we can touch a little bit, so we can use the example of the unconditional love of a mother. So that's why it's very different. The self-compassion comes with a certain wisdom and understanding for our own true potential. So it's almost like having two friends, right? One is the peer pressure that wants you to smoke, and the other one is the one who's saying, no, don't smoke, that's not good for you. You know, so that's a little bit the self-cherishing mind is like, oh, smoke, you're gonna look good, you know, in front of your friends, and you want to be the cool guy or whatever it is. And the self-compassion mind is the one that says, no, don't smoke, you know, it's gonna harm you. In the long run, you're gonna be more unhappy, you're gonna have suffering. You know, this is not really gonna satisfy you. That's the self-compassion. The real friend is the self-compassion. Cherishing mind is not the real friend. It's really the enemy. Okay? And then the other one, what was the other one?
The other part was what's the difference between self-gratification and rejoicing?
So self-gratification is more also the same. It's like self-cherishing. You feel to boost one ego. You know, if you did like, if you can do 100% and you did 2% and you're like, oh, I'm so cool, I did 2%, wow, I'm awesome. That's the type of self-gratification. Of course, you cannot confuse it with, what was the other one?
Rejoicing.
You can't confuse it with rejoicing, because you need the rejoicing in order to like give yourself that, what do you call it, inertia, right? So for example, if I do 2%, I rejoice for having done the 2%, and that motivates me to want to do the other, you know, 98%. Right? So that is a rejoicement. You know, it's like, I rejoice because I've done that, and I'm so happy. I want to continue helping others. I want to continue being of service. I want to continue learning about, you know, my own true nature, whatever it is. So that's a kind of, it's a rejoicement. It's a happiness from something good, something really good, not just apparently good, but something good that has its true values. You know, something good, there's value behind it. That in the long run, it has a very powerful effect in our life. You know, self-gratification is just a temporary thing that, oh, you know, like you just want to convince yourself that you are better than you are. You know, and actually that's what we're actually bypassing. We're avoiding really challenging us. So self-gratification it can be very destructive on the long run, because it's going to give us a concept of ourselves that is not real, and then we're going to have a separation of the real of how people see us and how we see ourselves. And then in society, slowly we'll lose our friends, because eventually our friends will not be very interested in spending time with us, because it's all about me. You know, unless of course maybe I'm a millionaire or a billionaire, and then maybe I have many friends. You know, but that's a different story. So anyways, yeah, something like that.
Thank you so much, Ösel. Thank you so very much for all of these answers and for your teaching. I'm sure I speak for everybody when I say this was so beautiful and so moving and so helpful. And I'm going to turn it over now to Jennifer Kim, who's going to be leading our closing prayers for us.
Okay.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Ösel, for giving us much food for thought. And just to make sure that all this positive energy isn't wasted, we have some dedication prayers here. Ösel, would you like to lead them through them, or would you prefer us to do it?
I can lead if you want.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Better? Okay. Gyawadi nyudo ba lama sangye digene ndwara chikya malyo ba te sala gyawara sho chanjo sanjo rumboje mage banam ge gyawara nyambara me baraya khone hondo phewa sho hare rawe khorwe shingamdi pendande wa malyo joen generation Tenzin gesoi shabe side phadu thank you ji. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you, Ösel. And then in addition to the prayer for His Holiness the Dalai Lama, which you've just recited in Tibetan, we would love to recite the prayer for Lama Zopa Rinpoche and also your long life, if that's okay.
His Holiness's one in English also, please.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. So the wish-granting, wish-fulfilling jewel, source of every single benefit and happiness in this world, to the incomparably kind Tenzin Gyatso I beseech, may all your holy wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. And for Lama Zopa Rinpoche, You who uphold the subduer's moral way, who serves the bountiful bearer of all, sustaining, preserving, and spreading Manjunath's victorious doctrine, who masterfully accomplish magnificent prayers honoring the three jewels, Savior of myself and others, your disciples, please, please live long. And also your long life prayer, Ösel. Venerable One, to you whose kindness exceeds that of all the conquerors, for those wanderers in far-off places, especially in the West, mindful of your loving concern for us, in intentionally descending again into a family of a far distant land, we make this request, Lama, please, please live long.
Thank you so much. Thank you. That's so kind of you. Thank you. And thank you, everyone. I wanted to say hello to everybody. So I'm just going to say hello in general. Hello. And thank you so much for attending. And hope to see you soon.
Thank you also so much. This has been an honor and a blessing. We're all just thrilled to have spent this time with you today. Thank you again. And I want to wish you a happy birthday. I know it's coming up soon. May all your wishes be fulfilled. And for everyone else, please check out Ösel's Global Tree Initiative, which he's very passionate about. And we also have a poll in the chat room for anyone. We would appreciate if you fill it out and give us a little feedback about today. And again, Ösel, thank you so much. This has been really a wonderful time.
Thank you so much. Thank you.